If you've been around the community for a while, I'm sure you've heard of the elusive, infamous term, memory leak. I have done a lot of testing. And when I say a lot of testing, I mean I've probably looked into this for about 6 hours at this point, if not more. I have the data to back it up, and we're going to dive straight into talking about memory leaks. If you're unsure of what a memory leak is, I want to define that so the community understands what that is. And honestly, Wikipedia had a really good definition for it. And essentially, it's where a computer program just incorrectly manages memory and keeps memory allocated to it when it's no longer needed and doesn't reallocate it, if you will, back to the operating system for it to be used for the program. A common misconception I've seen throughout the community is that this memory leak is the same as VRAM spillover. If you look at the gameplay I have on for Streets on the screen right now, you'll see that I'm pretty close to my VRAM limit. And as it hits that, it's gonna start dumping memory to my system RAM instead of the VRAM because there's simply no more room. This is why when you see people who say they have such inflated numbers of RAM usage, especially on Streets or Lighthouse, this is why, is because they're likely experiencing VRAM spillover, depending on the amount of VRAM on their cards and their settings and all of that stuff. An actual memory leak is a lot more gradual in nature. It takes a good bit of time for you to actually notice it, unless it's a drastic bug. So because of that, I had to integrate that into my testing. It was a common theory, at least for the past couple of wipes, that if there was a memory leak and that terminology was floating around the community, that you should restart your game after every couple of raids, 2 to 3 raids. And with that in mind, I put this into my testing. The process was as follows. I would load up into the game and write down the amount of RAM usage. I'd then load into all the traders, as somebody would probably do if they were playing the game, load into their inventory, all that sort of thing, and then I would write down the RAM usage again. Once that's down, I would pick Streets first, go into an offline raid, go to the Sewer River location, and then sit there for 20 minutes and write down what my RAM was on the first load-in, after 10 minutes, and after 20 minutes in raid, from which case at the 20-minute mark, I would back out of the raid, go to the main menu, write down my RAM usage, load back into all the traders and my inventory, and then write down the RAM usage again. I did the same process I did for Streets with Interchange and then Factory. So it was the Streets, Interchange, and Factory without restarting my game in offline raids, going from one to the other, spending 20 minutes in each raid. This took a lot of time, as you might think. And what I'm going to do as we're talking about my results in the testing is I'm going to load into an offline Streets raid without automatic RAM cleaner on, so that maybe we'll be able to witness the memory leak, quote unquote, live. So I'm gonna get that set up and I'll see you guys in a minute. And so you can see we're on Streets now. And as I'm talking in the background, I want you to keep a close eye on the RAM usage that's in the top left corner. I'll have it up. I'll just be sitting here in raid as I pull up the data, and yeah, I'll have that there for you. So with that out of the way, this is the data. It's a lot to take in, but essentially, to explain how I organize this in the chart, the green line represents a run that I did first off with RAM cleaner on in offline modes, with no restarting and no AI present in the raids. The same process I did, or I explained earlier in the video, and you can see each part of the process on the bottom. So for example, this is my first loading in on Streets right here, followed by 10 minutes, 20 minutes, me backing out of the Streets raid and loading up all of my traders afterward. And I do the same thing with Interchange, and then with Factory. Run number 2 is the same thing, except I disabled RAM cleaner and I did not restart. And the third run is online, but without RAM cleaner. You might be asking yourself, Clem, where's the fourth run where you're online with RAM cleaner? We'll get back to that. But as you can see, there is a clear difference in skill when it comes to each one of these settings. Having RAM cleaner on is definitely overall less than having RAM cleaner off total. And also, since people want to make sure that I get the testing accurate by me going into online mode as well, I did with the blue bar. So the blue bar is the online raids, in which you can clearly tell that my RAM usage, especially on Streets, is way higher than the RAM usage otherwise when in comparison between offline and online in the various different maps. This is due to the VRAM spillover that I was mentioning before. Ignoring this data though, you can still see that there is some difference in between the online and offline usage of RAM, at least with my current settings that are listed in the description. And overall, having RAM cleaner on helps you stay under, say, a 16 gigabyte limit if you're in that scenario. However, if you have 16 gigabytes of RAM and you have a low VRAM card and you go into streets, you're probably going to notice the incredible stuttering, as you're going to be running out of system memory pretty quickly. As you can see, I peaked at around 21.6 gigabytes of RAM usage on streets with my 8 gigabyte VRAM card. Another thing you might notice about some of these curves, depending on which map you're looking at, is that they're ever so slightly vertically inclined. Online especially. Which you may notice though in the offline raids with the RAM cleaner, is that RAM usage within the maps tends to stay at about the same point throughout the entire process. For example, on interchange, I stay roughly at this 9 gigabyte bar right here, and when I back out and then go to factory, I'm still staying at roughly the same amount of usage. So a lot of the RAM usage that was at streets didn't carry over. This tends to be the theme throughout the 3 bars here that I have. So my theory right now, based on not only what you're seeing behind me in the screen, but also these graphs, is that technically speaking, there is some sort of memory leak happening right now. This is, and I don't want people to be toting that as a sort of end of the world scenario. In fact, it doesn't seem to be the end of the world. And the clip that I'm about to show you might say why. Oh. What the wait. This keeps going. What? How far is it? 13 gigabytes. Wait, what? Well, that's interesting. It's only kicking in the RAM cleaner when I go into the menu. As you could probably tell by my raw reaction in that footage, seeing that drop faster than the stock market during the Great Depression, there seems to be some sort of bug with RAM cleaner. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but I do know within one of my runs for run number 1, I did go into the settings to ensure that everything was set right at around the 10-minute mark. This is why you see the dip in RAM usage when I get to 10 minutes. It seems to be that whenever you enter the settings menu, the RAM cleaner either kicks on or it just starts dumping memory that no longer needs. If it like realizes that it needs to get rid of all that memory. I dropped by 7-8 gigabytes in that video alone. Granted, on streets I was having more than just a memory leak, I was also having VRAM spillover, but that begs the question of if I was able to hit escape and then empty out all that RAM, go back into the game, and it was fine, why is it there in the first place? There's just a bunch of questions that I'm not quite keen on the answer to at the moment. So I figured, and this is why I don't have a run number 4 bar, I figured we'd try to go in here on an offline raid without RAM cleaner and just see what happens when I hit escape and go to the settings. So, let's do that. Go in here, hit escape, go to the settings. Nothing happens. With that in mind, I think the conclusion is pretty clear. Something is happening with automatic RAM cleaner. In my eyes, automatic RAM cleaner still does a really good job at controlling the memory leak and VRAM spillover when it actually works, but seems to me that it's not doing everything that it should when you're in RAID unless you go to the settings. So now that we're in here, and since you can just enable automatic RAM cleaner without restarting your game, though I did for the testing by the way, if I go into my settings here and check automatic RAM cleaner and save, That's a little strange. Very interesting behavior. Oh man, how low down are we going? Pretty much at 11 gigabytes there. And as I'm sitting here, you're probably going to see it start to spike back up in usage ever so slowly. As I was just watching it during my testing, it seemed that it was going up between like 1 and 4 megabytes every second or two. I'm not sure what's causing this. I'm not sure what the bug is, but technically speaking, there is some sort of memory leak within Tarkov. As of right now, I'm not even sure if it ever went away. I think the community just stopped talking about it. And to be clear, about things like process lasso, ISLC, or empty standby list, those programs don't directly target your actual in-use RAM, because if it were to go at that memory, depending on what memory you'd be trying to slim down, may hurt your performance or cause game issues. And wow, they're getting angry at me for this one. If I pull up my resource manager, and that's not it, go to the memory tab here, this is what your ISLC or empty standby list or process lasso is targeting, is standby memory. This is not shown in the total used memory that's in MSI Afterburner or other programs that you see. Process Lasso has its own implementation of this that's a bit different than the other ones, and it attempts to ask working processes to clear out their standby. But as far as I know, I haven't fully tested this feature, so this might help in this case if it actually properly asks Tarkov to clear up this memory. But I haven't tested this. I'll probably be leaving this to another video. Feel free to try it. It is shown in Task Manager, but if you go to Performance and go in here, it's in cached. It doesn't count as the in-use memory. This standby memory is just extra memory that it's caching in case it needs to use it again so it can save time on calling back that data. So the point of this whole ordeal, and what I was trying to say in this section, is that those programs may be helping you, not because they're actually reducing the amount of RAM that Tarkov is using, but because they're clearing out this list. And I've made a video on standby memory already, several in fact, so if you've been watching the channel for a little bit, you probably know what I'm talking about. But the conclusion of the video, and why I did all this testing in the first place, even though I kind of saw this conclusion coming, is that I wanted to clear up the memory leak issue entirely, because it's a buzzword and I think people are using it to encompass more performance issues than they really mean to. And I want to educate, well, this sounds like I'm on a high throne. I'm not trying to be high and mighty, just I wanted to let you guys know that there is a difference between VRAM spillover and the actual memory leak issue. Memory leak issue, as far as I can tell, does exist, but automatic RAM cleaner seems to be the counter. It's just not working fully as intended and seems to be clearing out a lot of RAM only when you're opening the menu. There doesn't seem to be any major fix for this, but as far as my graph goes, you can see that I was pretty stably around a certain range, even though I did several raids in a row without restarting. I was still staying roughly where I was at the current settings, run after run. Even without RAM cleaner, I wasn't dipping higher the more I ran through raids. This could be different for you, and if it is, I'd love to hear your opinions in the description, or the comments. Yes, there is a memory leak, but it doesn't seem to be transitioning from raid to raid. Automatic RAM cleaner does a pretty good job in trimming that down, but it seems to only work its magic when you open up the settings screen, and I'm not sure what's up with that. RAM cleaner does reduce the amount of RAM you're using on average, but it doesn't seem to be actively clearing it out unless you open that settings screen. I only remember a couple times when I was observing the testing where it actually trimmed the RAM usage in-game. So I'm not sure how often they decide to do it. I'm not sure what their parameters are, but with that out of the way, here's all the data I collected. It's all there on the screen for you, and thank you so much for watching. I put a lot of time into this, and hopefully this clears up some things and lets you guys in on what's happening right now with that elusive memory leak, and hopefully it describes it in a little bit more detail and pushes VRAM spillover out of the equation. And with that lightning strike from God, I'll be ending this video. And this is totally not me from the future telling you that there's a Discord link in the description that I will be streaming here on YouTube within like a couple hours, probably. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. hit all the buttons. Membership now has a nice little top hat on it. If you'd like to become a member, it's linked in the description. And with that, thank you so very much for watching and supporting the videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. This is Clem, clocking out. Later.